Triplets vanished in 1981. 30 years later, a DNA kit shows they were never siblings. The town of Renton wasn't the kind of place where big things happened. It had one stoplight, 2 churches, and a diner that made the same 5 meals for 50 years. People left their doors unlocked. They knew their neighbors. They waved to strangers. In 1981, Renton had just over 3,000 people, and 3 of them were the Meyers triplets. The triplets were famous around town, not just because they were triplets, which was already rare enough, but because they were identical. 3 baby boys with the same curly brown hair, big hazel eyes, and dimpled chins. Their names were Jacob, Joshua, and Jonah. Born just 2 minutes apart from one another at Renton General Hospital, they were the pride of their parents, Melissa and Tom Meyers. People called them the Jays. They wore matching overalls, ate from matching plastic bowls, even cried at the same time, at least in the beginning. Melissa stayed home with them, always tired but always smiling. Tom worked as a high school history teacher and coached junior varsity basketball. They weren't rich, but they were loved, and they loved each other. Every Sunday morning they went to church. Every Saturday afternoon they walked through the farmer's market with a triple stroller. Life was busy, messy, loud, but it was good. Until the day everything changed. It was a Thursday, July 16th, 1981. Hot, sticky, and slow, the kind of day when the pavement shimmered and the air stood still. The triplets were 4 years old. Melissa had taken them to Shady Grove Park like she always did in the summer. It wasn't a fancy park, just a few swings, a metal slide that burned your skin if you weren't careful, and a little picnic area under 2 big maple trees. They arrived just after 11 a.m. Melissa laid out a towel in the shade. The boys ran to the swings. She brought sandwiches, apple slices, and juice boxes. At 11:37 a.m., she turned her back to answer a question from another mom, something about where she got her boys' matching hats. When she turned around, the triplets were gone. At first, she thought they were playing hide-and-seek. They were mischievous, always testing her. Once they had hidden inside the racks of a clothing store for 5 whole minutes before she found them. So she called out their names. "Jacob, Josh, Jonah, come out now. That's enough." No answer. She walked the edges of the playground, checked behind the slide, under the picnic table, inside the small plastic tunnel. Nothing. The other mom helped her look. Then a few more parents. By 11:50 a.m., people were calling their names. By 12:15 p.m., someone called the police. By 12:22 p.m., the entire town began to change. The first officer to arrive was Sergeant Ed Weller. He knew Melissa. His son had been in Tom's class. She was sitting on the towel, her hands shaking, repeating the same thing. I turned around for 1 second, just 1 second. They were right there. By 1 p.m., the whole park was closed off with yellow tape. Police searched every inch, bushes, dumpsters, the small creek that ran through the edge of the woods. They brought in dogs. They set up roadblocks. They knocked on every door within a 10-mile radius. Volunteers showed up with flashlights and flyers. The fire department searched storm drains. No one found anything. No shoes, no toys, no hats, nothing. It was like the triplets had been erased. The news reached the TV stations by that evening. Lo, 3 identical brothers, gone without a trace from a quiet park in a tiny town. Reporters showed up the next day, cameras flashing. Big city anchors stood near the swings, reading from notes with serious voices. A reward was offered $10,000, then $25,000, then more. People said things like, "How could 3 kids disappear without someone seeing? It doesn't make sense. Someone must have taken them." The story was on every channel for a week. But the triplets never came back. Melissa stopped eating. She didn't want to talk to anyone except the police. She stayed in the boys' room, touching their pillows, folding and unfolding their clothes. Tom kept working, but barely. He'd come home and sit on the couch without turning on the TV. Just sit there, staring at the floor. Neighbors tried to help. They brought casseroles, mowed the lawn, left cards with prayers and poems, but nothing filled the space. The police chased every theory. Maybe it was a custody thing, a distant relative who wanted them. Maybe it was a stranger, someone passing through, who saw a chance. Maybe, though no one said it out loud, maybe it was someone in town. That idea scared people the most. That someone they knew had taken the boys. That they could sit beside them at church or smile at them in the grocery store. The police interviewed everyone: Melissa, Tom, teachers, neighbors, family, even the other parents at the park. There were no good leads, just fear and silence. Over the months, the search slowly shrank. At first it had been daily, then weekly, then only when a new tip came in, usually from someone far away. A woman in Ohio thought she saw 3 boys with a man at a gas station. Someone in Florida sent a letter claiming to be one of the boys, but it was a hoax. Eventually, people stopped believing the boys would be found alive. Some even started to say maybe they were never really triplets, that maybe the Meyers had adopted, or lied, or worse. But no one had proof. And soon, the town just stopped talking. By 1985, the Meyers had separated. Melissa moved to a nearby city, started working at a bookstore. Tom transferred schools. They didn't divorce at first, just stopped living together. The house where the triplets had grown up stayed dark for a long time. Eventually, it sold. The new owners repainted the front steps and planted flowers where the swing set used to be. Life went on, but the pain didn't. Renton kept the memory. Some called it a tragedy, others a mystery. Some used the story to scare kids into staying close at the park. Don't wander off, or you'll end up like the triplets. But no one really believed they'd ever know the truth. Until 2011. That's when it happened. In a different town, with a different name. A woman named Hannah Brooks bought a DNA kit online. Oh! She'd been raised as one of 3 siblings triplets, everyone had always said, but something had never felt right. The 3 of them didn't look that much alike. She was tall, her sister was short, their brother had different eyes. Their parents had said it was just one of those things. So she took the test for fun, spit in the tube, mailed it off. And when the results came back, everything changed. The report said her 2 siblings weren't her siblings at all, not even close. And when she clicked the DNA matches tab, a new name showed up. Melissa Meyers, her birth mother, from a town called Renton. Hannah Brooks stared at the screen. Her laptop buzzed softly on her lap. The browser opened to the DNA results page. She had clicked the matches tab 3 times already, hoping the names would change. They didn't. Melissa Meyers, parent-child match. It was right there in black and white. She rubbed her eyes. Her heart thumped loudly in her ears. This didn't make sense. It had to be a mistake. She clicked again, then again. Still the same. Her hands were shaking as she walked down the hallway to her brother's room. It was almost midnight. The apartment was quiet. Her brother Drew was still awake, lying on his bed, scrolling through his phone with one hand and eating cereal with the other. "Can we talk?" Hannah asked. He looked up. "What's wrong?" "I got my DNA results back." "Yeah. Did we come from royalty or something?" She sat down at the edge of his bed. "They say I'm not your sister." The spoon paused halfway to his mouth. "What?" "They say we're not related, not even cousins. Nothing." He blinked. "That can't be right." Hannah held up her phone. "Also, I have a match, a parent match. Some woman named Melissa Meyers." "Are you sure it's not like a name glitch or a false match?" Hannah shook her head. "No, it's exact. Full match." Drew sat up straighter. "That doesn't make sense. We're triplets. We were born the same day." "I know," she said. "That's what we've always been told." A long silence stretched between them. Finally, Drew whispered, "Do you think Mom and Dad lied to us?" The next morning, Hannah brought it up with their sister, Emily. Emily didn't take it as well. "That test is probably wrong," she said, waving it off. "Those online kits mess things up all the time." Hannah laid the phone on the kitchen table, the result glowing on the screen. "It's not wrong." Emily crossed her arms. "I don't want to talk about this." "But what if we're not actually triplets?" Hannah asked softly. "We are," Emily snapped. "We grew up together. We shared a crib." "I don't remember any of that." Emily stormed out of the room. By that evening, Hannah knew she couldn't wait any more. She printed out the DNA report, highlighted the name Melissa Meyers, and drove to her parents' house. Their mom, Grace, opened the door with a warm smile. Their dad, Carl, sat in the recliner watching the news. The house smelled like lemon polish and meatloaf. They didn't expect her to come by unannounced. "I need to ask you something," Hannah said, her voice shaking. Grace led her into the kitchen. Carl followed. Hannah laid the printout on the counter. "I took a DNA test. I matched with someone named Melissa Meyers. It says she's my biological mother." Carl was the first to speak. "Those kits can be wrong, Hannah." "It's not wrong." Her mother's hands trembled as she reached for the paper. "We didn't mean to hide anything from you," she said slowly. "So it's true?" "You were adopted," Grace said. "All three of you were. It was a private adoption, very closed. The lawyer said no one would ever come looking." Hannah's eyes widened. "All three of us? You adopted triplets?" There was a pause. Carl looked away. "That's what we were told," Grace said, "that the three of you came together, siblings." "And you believe that?" "We did," Carl said. "We wanted to. We had tried for years to have kids." "So you never checked?" "It was the early '80s, Grace said. "Things were different back then." Hannah couldn't speak. Everything she thought she knew about her birthday, her siblings, her childhood had just cracked open like a broken shell. That night, Hannah sat on her bed surrounded by papers and her laptop. She typed Melissa Meyers Renton into the search bar. A few hits popped up. The third one was a newspaper scan. "Triplets vanish from Shady Grove Park, Renton, July 1981. Her heart dropped. She clicked. There was a black and white photo of a woman holding 3 babies. The caption read, "Melissa Meyers, Renton resident, with her triplets Jacob, Joshua, and Jonah in 1980. Hannah stared at the faces. One of the boys looked exactly like Drew. The other, like a younger version of herself. The article told the story. 3 boys disappeared in a single afternoon. No clues, no answers. Case gone cold. She kept reading, another article, then another. Each one showed the same desperate woman, the same quiet man beside her, pleading for information, holding up baby pictures. And then there was a clip from 1995 showing Melissa alone at a memorial, holding a candle. Hannah reached for her phone. The call rang 5 times before it went to voicemail. She hung up. She didn't know what she was going to say anyway. She waited 30 minutes. then tried again. This time, someone answered. Hello? The voice was quiet, older, worn. Hi, is this Melissa Meyers? Yes, who's this? My name is Hannah Brooks. I think I'm your daughter. A long pause. Then Melissa said, I only ever had sons. I know. I saw the articles. I saw the photos. Silence. I did a DNA test, Hannah said softly. It matched you as my biological mother. Another long pause. Then a whisper. Jacob. No, Hannah said, her voice breaking. It's Hannah now, but I think I'm one of them. Melissa didn't speak, but Hannah could hear her crying. After a few moments, Melissa said, Where are you? I live in Oak Springs. It's about 2 hours from Renton. Can you come tomorrow? Yes, I'll be here. The next day, Hannah drove to the address Melissa gave her. It was a small one-story house with white shutters and a wind chime on the porch. She parked in the driveway and walked up the steps, her hands shaking. The door opened before she knocked. Melissa stood there, gray hair, soft face, eyes full of something between hope and fear. She didn't say hello. She didn't ask who Hannah was. She just looked at her for a long time. Then she whispered one word. Jacob? Melissa didn't hug her right away. She didn't cry either. She simply stepped back from the front door, gave a small nod, and said, Come in. The house was quiet, clean. There were no family pictures on the walls, just a few paintings of flowers and a shelf with ceramic angels. Hannah followed her into the kitchen, hands tucked in her coat sleeves. Neither of them knew what to say. Finally, Melissa asked, Tea or coffee? Tea, Hannah said. Melissa nodded. She moved slowly as if her hands had forgotten how to hold something delicate. They sat at the table with matching blue mugs. A clock ticked steadily above the stove. Outside, a bird tapped against the window once, then flew off. Hannah tried to speak first. I don't know where to begin. Melissa looked down at her mug. You're the first person who's ever said they were mine. Hannah blinked. I always hoped. For 30 years, I prayed. For even one. Hannah swallowed hard. I didn't know until a few weeks ago. Melissa looked up. I don't know if you're Jacob. You could be Jonah. They were hard to tell apart, but I always knew. She paused. You're too tall for Joshua. He had little feet. I know that sounds silly. It doesn't, Hannah whispered. For the next hour, Melissa told her about them. How Jacob had a habit of tugging her sleeve when he wanted something instead of speaking. How Jonah loved animals and would cry if she swatted a fly. How Joshua giggled in his sleep. They weren't just the triplets, she said. They were 3 whole people. She talked about the day at the park. How she turned around for just 1 second. How no one saw anything. No tire tracks, no screaming, no signs of a struggle. I thought maybe they ran off, she said, but not all 3. Not at the same time. And they were good about staying close. I'm so sorry, Hannah said. I wish I knew more. Melissa reached across the table and gently touched her hand. You're here. That's something. After they finished their tea, Melissa stood and went to the hall closet. She came back holding a box old, taped on the edges, yellowed with time. My memories, she said, the only ones that still make sense. Inside were photo albums, baby shoes, one tiny sweater with a duck on the front. She opened the first album. Hannah leaned in and froze. There on page 2 was a photograph of the boys at age 3, sitting in a little wagon, grinning with juice-stained lips. The boy in the middle. He looked exactly like a photo Hannah had of herself, age 4, riding her tricycle. Same chin, same hair, same tiny scar near the eyebrow. She pulled out her phone and brought up the picture. Melissa leaned closer. She didn't say a word, just slowly nodded. "That's Jonah," she whispered. "I always thought I was Jacob," Hannah said softly. Melissa shook her head. "Jonah had a tiny birthmark behind his left ear, like a star." Hannah reached up and parted her hair. Melissa gasped. They didn't need more proof. The next few hours passed in a blur. Melissa and Hannah laid out dates, compared stories. The triplets had vanished on July 16th, 1981. The Brooks family adopted triplets just 2 months later, all from a closed arrangement handled by a lawyer they'd never met in person. "No records?" Melissa asked. "None that they showed us." Melissa's hands trembled. "Someone took you, hid you, then placed you somewhere no one would ask questions." Hannah's heart pounded. "Do you think someone we knew did it?" Melissa nodded slowly. "I do." She went to the bedroom and came back with an old notepad. Inside were Scribble's thoughts, theories she'd written down over the years. One name was circled several times. L. Carpenter, Tom's co-worker, helped with the boys at school. "Tom?" Hannah asked. "My ex-husband. Your, maybe, father," Melissa said. "He blamed himself, couldn't handle the pain. We drifted apart." She pointed at the name. "Carpenter helped us a lot, brought food, helped organize search parties. But looking back, he always knew a lot. Too much." "You think he took us?" Melissa hesitated. "I think he helped someone who did." Later that evening, as the sky turned orange, Hannah called Drew. "Can you take a DNA test?" He didn't ask questions. "Send it. I'll do it." She texted Emily, too. No reply. It didn't matter. She was going to find the truth, no matter how long it took. The DNA kit sat on Hannah's kitchen counter for 2 weeks before Drew's results came in. She checked the app every morning and every night, sometimes in the middle of the night, too, just in case. She wanted to believe he was her brother, not just the person she grew up with, but truly her brother, her other half. She wanted that answer to be yes. But when the results finally appeared, the answer was no. It was a cold morning, rain tapping on the window. She opened the app, held her breath, and scrolled to the Matches tab. 0 shared DNA segments. She blinked. Read it again. Drew Brooks. No shared parents. No known relatives in common. She didn't know how to move. Then her phone buzzed. A text from Drew. "Got the same results as you. We're not even cousins, huh?" She didn't respond right away. Another message came. "It feels weird, but I still think of you as my sister, just so you know." Her eyes filled with tears. She drove to Melissa's that afternoon, gripping the wheel like it might float away. Melissa made tea. They sat at the same table, the same blue mugs between them. "He's not mine," Hannah said softly. Melissa nodded. "I was afraid of that." "I don't understand. If we weren't related, why were we all adopted together?" Melissa sipped her tea slowly. "It wasn't uncommon back then, especially in cases where the adoption wasn't official." "You mean illegal?" "I mean hidden," she said. "There were people who found babies from poor families, from troubled homes, or stolen, and they'd place them with desperate parents. Some of those parents didn't ask too many questions." Hannah sat back in her chair. "So we were a set?" "Yes," Melissa said. "You were probably given to your adoptive parents as a complete story triplets. Easy to explain, easier to hide. Even though we weren't even related." Melissa looked sad. "You don't need to share blood to sell a story. Just timing, just desperation." That night, Hannah opened the adoption file her mom, Grace, had finally given her. It wasn't much, just a typed sheet, some signatures, and a business card paperclip to the back. Lewis R. Harwood, ESQ, Family Law Private Adoption Services. No website, no firm address anymore. Just a P.O. box and a phone number with an area code that hadn't existed in 20 years. Hannah grabbed her laptop and started digging. It took hours. She searched every court database, newspaper archive, and genealogy forum she could think of. Eventually, she found a blog post written by a man named George Kramer, who said his mother had been placed through Lewis Harwood in 1984. George said Harwood had helped arrange private, quiet adoptions for families across state lines. No background checks, no official government files, just money and promises. Hannah stared at the screen. Then she called Melissa. "I need to find this guy." The next day, they drove 2 hours south to a small coastal town called Trenton Bay. The last known address for Lewis Harwood was in a retirement community near the docks. They walked up a narrow staircase, past a peeling mailbox labeled L. Harwood 2B. A woman answered the door, middle-aged, tight smile. "He's not well," she said. "Who are you?" "I'm Hannah," she said. "He helped arrange my adoption in 1981. I have questions." The woman sighed. "He's very sick. Memory goes in and out." "Just 5 minutes," Hannah begged. The woman paused, then stepped aside. Harwood sat in a recliner, blanket over his knees, breathing through his nose with shallow breaths. His eyes flicked toward them. "Mr. Harwood?" Hannah asked. He didn't respond. Melissa crouched beside him. "You arranged a private adoption in 1981 for a set of triplets. We think they were stolen." Harwood blinked, slowly. Then he rasped, "3 for the price of 1. Melissa's breath caught. "Who took them?" she whispered. "Man," Harwood croaked, "and woman, paid in cash. He said, orphaned, said nobody wanted them." "Names," Hannah said. Harwood coughed. "Carpenter and Mira Collins." He closed his eyes. That was all they got. Back at Melissa's, they sat in a silence. "Do you know her?" Hannah asked. "Mira Collins," Melissa said slowly. "No, but that name sounds familiar." Hannah opened her laptop again. It didn't take long. She typed Mira's name into a record search tool and found something that made her stomach twist. Emily Brooks, originally registered as Emily Collins, born September 1979, place of birth Philadelphia. "She's not even from Renton," Hannah whispered. Melissa leaned over the screen. "Then she's not yours, and she's not mine either." Hannah had never been afraid of Emily before. They'd grown up like shadows of each other, playing with the same dolls, fighting over the same clothes, falling asleep in the same bed when they got scared of storms. But now, as she stood outside Emily's apartment door, with a printed birth record in her purse, Hannah felt something strange between her ribs. Not fear, but a sense that the world she knew was about to break open again. Emily answered after the third knock, wearing her old sweatshirt and sweatpants, eyes tired. "You look serious," she said. "I need to talk," Hannah said. "It's important." Emily let her in without a word. The apartment smelled like popcorn and candle wax. A show was paused on the TV, some crime documentary, volume muted. Hannah sat on the edge of the couch and took out the paper. "Your name isn't Emily Brooks." Emily blinked. Hannah laid the document on the table. "Your birth name was Emily Collins, born in Philadelphia, 2 years before Drew and me." Emily picked up the paper, read it once, then twice. She didn't speak. "You were brought to Mom and Dad in 1981, Hannah continued, "by someone named Mira Collins. We think she might have been your mother." "No," Emily said suddenly. That's not right." Emily's voice shook. "No, I mean, yeah, I've always wondered, but I didn't think it meant anything." "What do you mean?" Emily stood up, left the room. came back with a cardboard box. She placed it on the floor and opened it. Inside was an old notebook, faded red cover, spiral bent at the top. "I found this when I was 10, she said. "It was in a suitcase Mom gave me, said it was just junk from when you were little." She handed it to Hannah. The first page was filled with scribbles, but the second had real writing shaky, like a child had copied someone else's words. "Her name is Mira. She changes my name sometimes. I was Ellie, now I am Emma. Tomorrow she said Emily." The next page. "We don't stay in houses long, just a few days or a week, then we go in the red car." And another. "I had a friend named Ava, but Mira said I couldn't talk to her again. She said I'm not supposed to tell people we are running." Hannah looked up. Emily was staring at the wall. "There's more," she whispered. Hannah turned the page. "Mira cries at night. She talks to pictures of a baby. I think she's sad, but she yells when I ask. We are going to a new family. She said I have to be quiet and not tell anyone my real name. She said this time it will be forever." They sat in silence. Emily pulled her knees up to her chest. "I thought it was pretend, like something I made up when I was little, you know, imaginary stuff." Hannah shook her head. "It's real." "Who is she?" "This Mira?" "We don't know," Hannah said, "but she's the one who brought you to our parents. Harwood, the lawyer, said her name when we visited him. She and Carpenter. They were working together." Emily looked pale. "So, I'm not your sister?" "No," Hannah said gently, "but you're still my sister. You always will be." Emily wiped her eyes. "You really believe that?" "Yeah," Hannah said, "I do." Emily laughed weakly. "You remember that red car we saw once in Mom's photo box? The one we didn't recognize?" "Yeah, I think that was hers." Later that night, after Hannah got home, she sat on the couch and opened the DNA app on her phone again. She hadn't expected anything new. But a red dot glowed in the corner. New match found. She tapped it. Jacob Meyers, 99.9% sibling match. Her heart skipped. The last missing brother was alive. And he had just been found. Hannah couldn't stop staring at the name on her screen. Jacob Meyers. Under it, a note. User also goes by. Jason R., J. Michaels, J.M. The address was marked private. The profile had no photo, but the DNA percentage didn't lie. He was her brother. The real one. She didn't sleep that night. Instead, she wrote message after message, deleting them all. What do you say to someone who vanished when they were 4 years old? What do you say to someone who doesn't know who they are? Finally, at 3:12 a.m., she typed one line. Hi, I think you might be my brother. I matched you on this app. I'm Hannah. Can we talk? Then she hit send and waited. The reply didn't come the next morning, or that night, or the next day. She tried to stay calm. Maybe he hadn't seen it yet. Maybe he didn't check the app often. Maybe he was freaked out. But on the third day at 5:46 p.m., she got a reply. I got your message. I don't know what to think. I don't know if this is real, but I've been wondering about where I came from my whole life. I'll meet you somewhere public. Hannah's heart raced. They agreed to meet 2 days later. A small coffee shop in Greenville, just 40 minutes from where Hannah lived. It felt strange that he was so close after all these years, after everything. She got there first, sat by the window, ordered tea, tried not to bounce her knee too much. At 2:08 p.m., the door opened. He was taller than she expected, lean, dressed in black jeans and a plain hoodie. His face was older, but she could see the boy in the photos. Same hazel eyes, same nose. He walked slowly to her table. You're Hannah? She nodded. He sat down. I go by Jay now. he said, "but I guess that's not really my name either." They talked for nearly an hour before either of them touched their drinks. Jacob, spoke quietly, measured, as if words were something that had once been used against him. "I remember being small," he said. "There was a woman, maybe my mother. She had long brown hair. She smelled like lemons. That's all I remember about her." "Melissa," Hannah said. "That's our mom, our real mom." He nodded. "Then one day, I was with a man. He said I'd been abandoned, that my mom left me because I was bad. He lied. I know that now." He took a sip of water. "He called himself Uncle Ray, but I think his name was something else. He moved us around a lot, different apartments, sometimes just trailers. He homeschooled me, said the world was dangerous, that no one would care about me but him." Hannah's heart hurt. "Did he hurt you?" Jay looked out the window. "He never hit me, but he never let me breathe either. He chose my name, my clothes, my words, my bedtime, everything." He paused. "I was 7 before I saw another kid my age." He told her how, at 16, he ran away. He'd waited until the man was asleep, packed a backpack, and walked for hours. A church youth center let him sleep on their floor. They helped him get a bus ticket. He gave a fake name, said he was a runaway from an abusive uncle. For years, he drifted, shelter to shelter, odd jobs, always using different names. But he had never known who he truly was. Not until he spit into a tube for a DNA test a coworker convinced him to try. He got the results 2 weeks ago and saw her name. "Do you remember the park?" Hannah asked. "Where you disappeared?" "No," Jay said. "I wish I did, but sometimes I dream about running through trees, holding someone's hand." He looked at her. "I think it might have been yours." Hannah's throat tightened. "Do you want to meet her?" she asked. "Our mom?" Jay didn't answer right away. He picked at a scratch on the table. "I want to believe this is real," he said. "I want to believe she looked for me." "She did, for 30 years. He nodded. "I'm not ready, but maybe I will be soon." A week passed before Jacob made up his mind. So he sent the message to Hannah at 6:12 a.m., just after the sun came up. "I'm ready, if she is." Hannah didn't reply with words. She just sent the address and the words. "We'll be here." Melissa spent the morning cleaning the house. Not because it was messy, it was never messy, but because she needed to move. Her hands needed something to do, something other than shake. She dusted picture frames, even though they hadn't held pictures for years. She rearranged flowers, straightened pillows. By the time noon came, the house looked the same. But Melissa was different. She stood at the front window and waited. At 12:57 p.m., a black car pulled into the driveway. Melissa's hands went cold. The door opened slowly. Jacob stepped out, wearing a button-up shirt and jeans. He held nothing in his hands. Melissa didn't move at first. Then she opened the front door. He stepped onto the porch. They looked at each other for a long time. No words. Just eyes. And then Melissa said, "Jonah?" He didn't answer. He just stepped forward. And she wrapped her arms around him. They sat on the couch, knees touching. Hannah stayed in the kitchen, giving them space. Melissa placed an old photo in Jacob's hands. 3 boys in a stroller, faces blurred from time. "I tried to remember you," she said softly, "every day, but I was so scared I'd forget your face." "I didn't forget," Jacob said. "I just didn't know it was yours." They talked. About the park. About the days that followed. About Uncle Ray. About the man who told Jacob his mother didn't want him, who taught him to lie, to stay quiet, to never trust anyone. Melissa listened with her whole body. She didn't interrupt, she didn't cry. She just listened. Jacob reached into his backpack and pulled out a plastic folder. These were in the box he kept in the closet. I never opened it until after he died. He laid the papers out. Handwritten notes, a newspaper clipping, a photo of Melissa holding the boys, and a driver's license, Lawrence Carpenter. Melissa's face went pale. "He helped us look for you," she whispered. "He was part of the search team. He brought flyers. He stood next to me while I begged the cameras for help." Jacob stared at the floor. "He took me, raised me, lied for 30 years. That night, they went to the police. Hannah and Jacob stood beside Melissa as she handed over the documents. The officers asked careful questions. They examined the evidence, the notes, the license. Carpenter had died under a false name, but once they ran the prints, it all came together. He was wanted in 3 other states for child endangerment. He had moved 7 times between 1981 and 1990. The case reopened. Even though he was gone, the truth was now out in the open. A week later, Melissa stood at Shady Grove Park for the first time in years. The playground had changed, new swings, new signs, but the trees were the same. The shadows fell the same way. Hannah stood to her left, Jacob to her right. She held one of their hands in each of hers. No words, just the sound of wind in the leaves. It took 3 more months, but eventually the case was closed. The Renton Police Department released a short statement. After 30 years, the 1981 Meyers triplet case is no longer classified as open. 2 of the 3 children have been located alive and well. The third, Joshua Meyers, remains missing. All available leads have been investigated. The words were quiet, but they were enough. News spread fast. Local papers picked it up. First, the story of a mother who never gave up, a DNA kit that changed everything, and siblings who discovered they were never who they thought they were. Then the national outlets followed. One headline read, "Triplets stolen in 1981. Reunite with birth mother after 30 years. DNA solves mystery." Melissa declined most interviews. She didn't want cameras or flashing lights or people digging into her pain just to fill airtime. She just wanted peace. She just wanted her kids home. Drew and Emily came for dinner the week after the case was closed. They brought a pie and some nerves. But by the end of the night, they were laughing over stories from childhood, ones that didn't need blood to feel real. Emily brought the red journal, the one with her childhood memories, and laid it on the table. "I'm still me," she said, "and I'm still yours if you want me." Melissa took her hand. "You always were." In November, they held a small service for Joshua. There was no grave, no ashes, just a tree in the center of Shady Grove Park and 3 candles lit in the wind. Hannah read a short note. "You were never forgotten. You are still part of us, and wherever you are, we hope you feel loved." Melissa placed a stone beneath the tree with the name Joshua carved into it. Beside it, she laid a picture, the triplets, age 2, holding hands. No one spoke for a long time. Then Jacob whispered, "Thank you." Hannah started writing. A short article for a genealogy website turned into a full blog. She called it "Pieces We Didn't Know Were Missing." She wrote about loss, discovery, the strange shape of truth, and how sometimes the people you grow up with aren't your past, but your future. Jacob began volunteering with a missing persons group. He spoke at schools, shelters, libraries. He didn't tell them everything, just enough. Enough to remind people that every child deserves to be found. In late spring, Melissa walked through the park again. Shady Grove had changed. New slides, painted benches, a community board by the water fountain. But the trees were the same, and this time she wasn't alone. Hannah walked on one side, Jacob on the other. They didn't talk. They just walked. Melissa looked up at the sky, where the branches broke open to sunlight. She reached out and took both their hands, and for the first time in 30 years, she let herself remember not just what she lost, but what she still had.